Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started on agenda item number 17, Commission Regulation 12-1, Black Bear Season. Game Division Chief Larry Gilbertson, the Commission may adopt regulations for the 2012 Black Bear Season, including open areas units, dates, legal weapons, hours, and specific regulations for the hunting of black bears, including proposed indoctrination provisions. Before Larry gets started, I want to lay out the ground rules. First of all, understand that what we're talking about are these items that are specifically listed in 17. And the easiest way that I can remember this is that we're talking about where we can hunt, when we can hunt, and how we can hunt. But we're not talking about whether we're going to be hunting at all. So let me explain. We're setting infrastructure items with regard to a bear season that we do not know if we're going to have. The determination of whether we're going to have a bear season will be an agenda item that is in the May meeting where we determine quotas. And at that point, the department will tell us, what the population estimates are, what the other science is with regard to the bear population to determine whether we have a sufficient population to hunt. But that is not what's occurring at this meeting. And so I'm going to be a Nazi when it comes to keeping us on track and within the scope of this agenda item. And so don't be offended if I cut you off if you start going down that path. I'm trying to keep this meeting rolling. And with respect to any of these items that are on the agenda, obviously we will discuss, I'm sure, at length. So anyway, with that, Larry, why don't you go ahead and get started?
Thank you, Chairman Macbeth. For the record, Larry Gilbertson, Department of Wildlife. And we're bringing forward today CR 12-01, the 2012 Black Bear Season recommendation. I'm not sure how much background or anything that you wanted to go into regarding this last year's hunt, but as most people know, the hunters were successful in harvesting 14 bears, and there were 5 females and 9 males. 7 were harvested in the Pine Nuts, 5 in the Pine Grove Hills, and 2 in the Carson Range. From what I've seen so far, some of the biggest controversy related to our recommendations this year is the changes we made from last year, which I guess to explain where we're coming from is we've gone through numerous meetings when you consider that we have the potential for 17 county game board meetings, but for the last 2 years really we've gone through at least probably 30 or 40 local meetings with boards in this commission and so forth that had a lot of bear issues on their boards. A lot of boards talked about it but weren't as concerned further away from the bear hunting area. But so with the concerns I've heard is the changes we made moving the season to September 15th and our recommendation for closing those portions of 192 and 194 within the Tahoe Basin. And basically the explanation for that is that with all those meetings and all that public input, we saw a lot of people discussing both sides of the issues and received tremendous amount of input. And so kind of like all of our other recommendations, if you think about quotas over the years, we have some of the most conservative hunting in the nation. In Nevada, we're very conservative. Our quotas are not as high as they could be based on the biology. And a lot of that is the social input we received through the process. It's been going on for 20 years and it's molded into what it is today. And so based on the input we received through all these meetings for the last couple of years, we heard a strong concern out there for hunting in the basin. So the department's recommendation is not based on any real problems identified out there, not based on any issues that we found during this first hunt. But it is based on the public input, and so that's where the department is coming from on this recommendation. And if you'd like any other information relative to it, or to bears or bear mortalities, there's been discussions about how many bear mortalities we had this year and some of that kind of thing.
Actually, I would actually not like to, unless somebody believes it's relevant. But what I have tried to communicate to people is that in our March meeting, that we are going to have an agenda item that basically goes into detail. I would like to see a presentation by the department, in March to basically go over every aspect in detail of the 2011 hunt, and then that way we concentrate on that issue without dealing with all these other peripheral issues we're going to be dealing with today. So that would be my preference, and because we're going to get hung up on a lot of things if we start going down that, in my opinion. Okay. I'll go ahead and bring it back to the commission. Any discussion with regard to the proposals on the bear hunt? Commissioner Howell.
Just one couple of quick things. First of all, just for informational purposes, I'd like to know the various units that bears were taken. And also, because typically we set seasons for 2 years, and last meeting it was already brought up by me that we wouldn't have time at this meeting to even propose a spring bear hunt because time frame. I would think next year, if this could be at an earlier time frame, that the possibility of a spring bear hunt could be addressed.
Any other commissioners with any comments with regard to Commissioner Rain?
Thank you. A question on the why did we do the season date proposal changes? I'd never really got a full explanation on that, the why, and also then about question about the units.
Okay, part of the reason for the, Larry Gilbertson for the record, part of the reason for the season date change was, again, that public input with concerns for potential conflicts that could occur between other recreational users, and we looked at it, and it looks like the highest use period, of course, is the summer period before kids go back to school, and so once school starts, the recreational uses decline on those trails and so forth, and so it's just to move that out of that time period when we have potential for conflicts. So.
Okay, and then on the units, the only portions that you would be exempting under this compared to last year would be basically the balance of 192 and 194. Is that right? Or what else are we eliminating?
Yeah, that's the only thing is that portion of those units that are within the Tahoe Basin. So it's essentially from the Tahoe Rim Trail, which is an identifiable marker that law enforcement can deal with, and down to the lake. So. And
the amount of, call it huntable land within that would be excluded, what is your opinion of that and the accessibility of that to hunters and it being good for bear hunting? Tell me your story. Or what would Carl say if he was here?
I actually had those percentages somewhere in my many notes, but the actual percentage of the total hunt area, I believe, was like less than 5% or something. It was pretty small.
The entire, if I recall, the entire hunt area is almost 3 million acres, and it's less than 1%. I mean, a lot of that country has got a no shooting closure anyway. There is some country that's U.S. Forest Service, about 15,000 acres, that's would be just east of South Lake Tahoe, basically, that would be shut down. But it's a small amount that you could actually hunt. Now that the hunters really haven't been, indoctrination has been very good. I mean, they had reported a couple of incidents, but very, very, very little. But we felt all the way around this was something responding to the public's desires and something that wouldn't be too onerous to the hunters as well.
And especially since no bears were harvested in the Tahoe Basin, we
Yes.
felt it wouldn't be a major impact to the hunters.
And one perception on those season dates, I know that I had heard, and I don't have experience hunting bears, is that the hides are better for later on in the year. If somebody has a lot more experience with bear hunting, might opine upon that here, whether it's public or otherwise, would appreciate it.
Okay, any other commission comment, discussion? Commissioner Drew?
Just a couple of comments. I'd like to thank the department for setting forth some changes here. I think that really fits well into what we discussed when we previously discussed this topic, and that was looking at some adaptive management strategies. And from being from Douglas County and one of the bear hunt counties, I can tell you that both folks who don't hunt and recreate in the Carson Range and folks who did hunt in this past bear season both had suggested to me looking at moving the season dates back at least beyond and later than Labor Day. So I appreciate that provision.
Okay, any other comment? I too had an experience, was out antelope hunting and ran across a couple guys that are from Carson City that were hunting, and their immediate question was, why did we start the hunt on August 20th? And so I explained that, well, I think we were trying to line up with California and to avoid any problems, because I believe you can buy a tag over the counter in California. They have a cap type system, and so they shut down their hunt once the cap is reached. But it's kind of like our mountain lion hunt. And so anyway, in that respect, I think this is a very good change. Anything we can do to lessen the conflicts with other user groups is good. And so, for both the hunt season dates as well as the hunt unit description, I think that those are good changes. So, okay, any other commission comment? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and take this out to the public then, and I know we probably have a lot of cards, and so I think we'll let our Vice Chairman manage the procession.
William Jackson. Okay. Catherine Smith.
Good morning. Kathy Smith, Reno, Nevada. So here in Nevada, it's legal to hunt bears with dogs wearing GPS collars. The reasoning given in a prior presentation was to increase hunter success rate. The reason I've heard since is to determine the sex of the bear. According to Tom Beck, a retired bear biologist from Colorado, in the 13 years of black bear kill data gathered in Colorado prior to 1992, there was no suggestion that hunters selected for males or even for larger bears, because it's so difficult to accurately judge the size, age, or sex of a bear even at close range. Multiple western states do not allow dogs or baiting, including Oregon, Washington, Colorado, and Montana. There are also several eastern states where the forests are much denser than here in Nevada. In Colorado, hunter success rate was around 10% before the ban and ranged from approximately 5 to 9% after the ban. More importantly, in all of the states, revenue has continued to increase. When Montana's Fish, Wildlife, and Parks Chief McDonald was asked about potentially using hounds, he said, "Montana requires hunters to locate and hunt bears on the bear's turf. That means it's tougher to kill a bear here. We're not ruling out any regulation changes in the future, but my hunch is that liberalizing bear hunting wouldn't fly with most Montanans. Too bad sportsmen in Nevada do not feel this way." Sportsmen often say that dogs allow selectivity, and we do have some nice anecdotal records from our hunters. As interesting as anecdotal information can be, published bear data discredits this theory. 80% of our female sows were taken with hounds. As states with and without a hounding ban have the same decision matrix as far as sex and adult bear harvest ratios. A study done by Oregon Fish and Wildlife found there was no detectable difference in sex harvest ratios pre or post banning hounds. If you look at California compared with Montana, the female harvest is comparable. So really, all that is left is the hunter success argument. Are the hunters in the 7 states where they do not allow hounds or baiting more skilled? Why should a hunt success be measured in quantity and not quality? In summary, hounding disobeys the fair chase principle. It can potentially harm bears preparing for hibernation, especially given our late season end. Hounds will trespass on private property, they will disrupt hikers and their dogs, and they will disrupt other hunters not using hounds. The practice can be harmful and even fatal to dogs. There has not been shown to be any loss in revenue with data from multiple states due to a hounding ban. There is not a statistical difference in the sex or age of the bears harvested. Successful hunts can still occur, resulting in a better quality hunt. Given our small bear population with such low numbers in the wildlands, we do not need to hunt for population control. Therefore, we do not need hounds unless the bear hunters in Nevada are not skilled enough to hunt bear without their assistance in GPS collars. We do not need hounds unless the kill is the most important part of the hunt. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and I have data for all that stuff on my computer. I can show you.
Larry Johnson.
Commissioners, thank you. Larry Johnson, Coalition for Nevada's Wildlife. It is interesting to see the tone of arguments change from public safety and so forth to now hounds are unfair. It kind of rings home the theme that it will be one excuse after another, after another, after another to stop the bear hunt. Quite frankly, this is, we at the Coalition support our hunting privileges, support the bear hunt, support the season changes proposed by the department. We think the area restrictions are premature. We think that should be decided at a later date when the Bear Committee has been able to meet and provides recommendations back to the Commission. If the Commission decides to make that decision today, we would urge you actually not to include all of the area's exclusions west of the Tahoe Rim Trail. Quite frankly, there's approximately 14 square miles of national forest land, over 10,000 acres there that would be excluded from hunting. Why I brought up the excuse after the excuse after the excuse in the arguments of the anti-hunting crowd is our fear, and I think it's well-founded and well-documented, is today will be no bear hunting west of the Tahoe Rim Trail. Tomorrow it'll be no deer hunting, no grouse hunting west of the Tahoe Rim Trail. We're not willing to sacrifice our lands that are open to us. We're citizens too. We have the right under Nevada law. Okay, there was a resolution passed under Governor Miller's reign that I helped pass that discussed and stated the importance of hunting, fishing, trapping to the state of Nevada. If you must make a decision on area restrictions today, I would, and the Coalition is requesting that you look at the area only between Spooner Summit and the Mount Rose Highway, which is largely state park land, private land from the ski resort, and the area north of the Mount Rose Highway that is closed to firearms restrictions by Washoe County regulations as the area is restricted to bear hunting. Because I think that is a lot more logical approach. You wouldn't be cutting sportsmen out of over 10,000 acres of national forest land. The other thing in regulations got to be addressed is bears, wildlife, as I said yesterday, doesn't recognize geographical boundaries, neither do hound dogs chasing bears. You can't make a criminal of a guy simply because his dog chases a bear into the Tahoe Basin west of the trail. There's got to be, if there's a prohibition of killing that bear, that's one thing, but he should not be cited simply because his dog chases and trees an animal in that area. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Gil.
For the record, Gil Yannick, Carson Advisory Board. We had quite a number of people at our meeting who were able to hunt bear, and so some of the comments that came back were from the hunters themselves, and I think the concern by the hunter over the public safety issues, the concern of the public that uses the land for recreation was very apparent. So we have to give hunters a lot more credit than some people may, that the hunters are not stupid about issues like that. They don't want confrontation. They don't want to encounter the public. They don't want to scare the public. We had people who hunted with and without dogs. Most people avoided the part of August because it really was very warm. So shortening the season may not be a big issue, but the majority of concern and the comments that we got was if we're trying to collect information about the hunt, statistical information, we can't go making changes every year because the statistical information won't mean anything if we're changing the ground rules. So our board felt that it would be prudent to leave things the way they are. Hunters aren't going to hunt in areas that people don't want them to hunt. They don't want confrontation, as I said earlier. They don't want the chance of somebody being frightened or hearing gunshots or, God forbid, come upon a dead animal and it freaks them out. So, again, we're suggesting please leave things the way they are. Let us gather some information, because I think the information that we have seen already about where the bears were taken has shown or put light on the subject that there's a lot more bears out there than we may recognize. Most of the bear information we have is reports about bear-human interface issues, the garbage bears, the bears that people see getting into residential areas. The amount of information that we have about the Pine Nut and the Pine Grove area is starting to get filled out. And so some of the concerns that we've heard from the public about the size of the population, it may be a lot larger than any of us know. And we'd like to collect that information and leave things the way they are so the statistical information remains valid. Thank you.
Mike Smith. You guys must have turned your cards in separately today. so
I
you
actually
don't have to
turned mine
speak
in
back to
first, but she got to go first. But I'm going to address the how, the same thing I've been talking about. I'm sorry, for the record, Mike Smith, Reno. I'm going to address not the how, the where. I've been talking about this since last August, and I'm not going to waver on it. I do think there's a public safety concern. I hear that different individuals and groups say that there's absolutely no public safety concern with this bear hunt, and I couldn't disagree more. And if there is not a public safety issue, bring me some information that supports that position. I mean, I would just ask that you contact the Ochoa family over in California. Their 20-year-old son, who was in the military, was home on leave 3 days before he was to go back overseas. He was hiking with a friend in Oregon. He was shot by a man in an open area with his 12-year-old grandson with him. And it's a tragic story, but it's tragic for everybody because my point is, we got the gentleman didn't pass away for several minutes till after the emergency people arrived, which I'm not sure how long the period was, and I'm not going to dwell on that, but we also got to consider that 12-year-old boy. That's a hell of a thing for a 12-year-old kid to go through. That's why I'm really concerned about the Tahoe Meadows area. I've talked to you guys about it individually and publicly. I appreciate so much what the department's done to take steps going this direction, but the area in the Tahoe Meadows that includes the Mount Rose Wilderness area that leads up to the Mount Rose Summit, the Galena Falls area, is all still in hunt zone. It's the most popular trail in the north end of the basin, and I think that in this situation, You really need to go to the experts on this. You have to talk to law enforcement. You have to talk to the folks that are up there all the time. I appreciate what the sportsman said. I actually agreed with several things said today. But we really need to look at this. And if this thing, I hear some ideas about taking this to the committee. I think that's the worst thing you can do when you're talking about the public safety issue. If you want to take the rest of it to a committee and bang it around over there, that's fine. Let them kick that can until their legs fall off, as far as I'm concerned. But in this situation, law enforcement needs to be involved. Maybe they already have been. But I'd like to know why that area in the Tahoe Meadows area has been is it just because the Tahoe Rim Trail has to be lining around there? That's not a good enough answer. I mean, this is more congested than the area that you've excluded. And, you know, that's where I agreed with Larry on some of that. I mean, he actually went that direction as well. And to me, it's just one of these situations where you have to look at, take whatever you do, don't punt this thing off to this committee. Don't, because that's the last place it needs to be on the public safety issue. That's NDOW's responsibility. That's your responsibility. You owe that to the public. Those two stakeholders have different issues, but the public, you've had plenty of memos, letters, emails, public comment from citizens that live in that area, people that vacation in that area.
Okay, 3 minutes to wrap up.
Oh, you give me my one. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Karen Lane?
And just for clarification, we are proceeding under the rule that organizations have 6 minutes. And so Larry didn't get close to 6 minutes, but if you do need the 6 minutes, organizations have a little bit more time.
You always tell me these things, at least you tell me before, as opposed to yesterday when I didn't know that, but thank you. Karen Lane, President, Las Vegas Valley Humane Society. I just would say to all of you commissioners, this is the first time that I've been back before the entire commission since last year, which was my first commission meeting. It was an eye-opening experience for me, one that I haven't forgotten, and I've been to every CAB meeting in Clark County since that time, because I think that the issues that are before this commission are extremely important for the public and not just for the sportsmen who are out there. And I would also say that it was the black bear issue that originally got me involved, because it just, you're sportsmen. You talk about being sportsmen, and yet today we're back. We talked about this issue at the Clark County CAB at some length Tuesday night, and part of that issue has to do with the idea that a lot of people presented information to the CAB, and it was kind of looked at in terms of emotional versus science, if the people didn't support the hunt. But for the people who did support the hunt, that same delineation wasn't made in those comments. So we didn't even have our people this time even write letters. We felt like it was falling on deaf ears. But as sportsmen, I think the thing that really concerns me is the idea, first of all, that you're using dogs, and now, wow, with GPS collars for tracking purposes. I mean, really. How much of a sport is this when we have these kinds of capabilities for the hunter? You know, if you want to hunt bears, go out and hunt bears. But certainly, why have dogs? Why have GPS trackers? I am glad to see that there is some discussion about reducing the time period. But I guess that was because the dogs were getting too hot, not the bears. I would say this, in terms of the statistics that this gentleman talked about. You know, I'm a statistician. I taught statistics at UNLV. And the discussion that was before this commission when I was here last year is that you were going to evaluate the first season's bear hunt, that you were going to take a look at that and look at those issues. There wasn't a discussion about doing 2 or 3 bear hunts. And Chairman Macbeth, last Tuesday night, you told me that you were going to be looking and evaluating the statistics from this past bear hunt, that it would be at the next commission meeting. And so I hope that that information is very carefully looked at. but you need to look at what happened with this bear hunt before you proceed further. I think that's really important. There's no reason, if you already understand some of the issues that occurred from the last bear hunt, the season was too long, it was too hot, make those changes. That's not going to impact the information that you're looking at, because you're looking at a very specified period of time. And so I want to make sure that everybody understands that. You can make changes as long as you're looking at a specific period of time and you're attempting to compare it with another period of time. Those are my comments. Again, I would say to you that, you know, the public is looking. We just had a nice video. I won't say a nice video. We just had a video presented, made a lot of commotion down in Clark County. It talked about trappers, and it kind of matched trappers to hunters. And my suggestion to you is, right now, you don't need for the press release to come out about a bear hunt that's going to have dogs with GPS tracking systems on them. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Catherine Bricker. Are you the one representing?
I'm not.
the hunt?
I'm Chris Schwamberger will take the extra time. Thank you. I'm Catherine Bricker with No Bear Hunt Nevada. I'd like to address the where we are having the hunt issue. Chris Healy has been quoted in the press multiple times as saying that the bear hunters were warned by the department to avoid hunting in the Tahoe Basin. The results of the 2001 hunt demonstrate that this request has proven ineffective in preventing direct threats to public safety, as well as negative impact to the tourist experience, upon which northern Nevada's regional economy depends. Given my time constraints today, I'd like to cite just two examples from many that we could. One comes from a hunter. John Glover, who was one of this year's bear hunters, reported in September at a Douglas County CAB meeting I attended that he had been hunting just east of the Tahoe Rim Trail. He said he's a local person from the valley, and he said he was amazed by the amount of recreational usage he encountered. He commented that he encountered so many groups of hikers and bikers that he would not consider hunting in that area again due to public safety concerns. In another incident, Lake Tahoe resident Jim Thulin reported, I found out about the bear hunt through personally encountering a bear hunter as I was hiking on the Tahoe Rim Trail by Heavenly Valley Ski Area. When I came upon him, he was talking in a very aggressive way to a mother with two girls, aged about 10 years old, who were hiking on the trail and visiting Lake Tahoe from the Bay Area. He was telling them that they had better clear out of there, that he was there to hunt bears, and if he saw one, he was going to shoot it, and he didn't care who got in the way. The two young girls were crying, and I could see that the mother was very frightened. I find it incredible that bear hunting is allowed in a place that is absolutely packed with tourists, hikers, and bicyclers all summer long, and with skiers and snowshoers all winter long. End of his statement. The Tahoe Rim Trail webpage states that over 3 million trail users annually use the trail annually in the Lake Tahoe Basin. This compares directly to Rocky Mountain National Park, which also reports over 3 million annual visitors in the year 2010. As one travels outside the Tahoe Basin, the Toyobe unit of the U.S. Forest Service reports trail usage for the Mount Rose Meadows area at approximately 1,000 hikers per day. Since Mr. Smith covered much of the area outside of the basin and its usage, I won't repeat that. It should be clear to the Commission
15 seconds.
that residents and tourists of Nevada deserve the same consideration as those in Rocky Mountain Park, who, by an act of Congress in 1929, prohibited hunting because it would significantly displace the existing recreational use of park visitors and would compromise visitors' safeties. We feel that the bear hunt has proven the same thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. By the way, Catherine has been appointed to our Bear Committee, and so welcome to the committee.
Christine Schwamberg. You're the 6-minute person.
Yes. Yes. Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Mr. Mayor, Chris Schwamberger from nobearhuntnevada.org. With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, your constraints on the discussion today as to only the how, where, and when of the bear hunt without a full analysis of last year's bear hunt data is, I have to say, unreasonable and disingenuous. We were promised repeatedly by both this commission and members of NDOW that this first bear hunt was experimental, that the commission was going to proceed very carefully and very slowly and completely analyze the hunt before any further action was taken. Yet today, this commission is proposing to adopt every single aspect of next year's bear hunt but the quota. That's without knowing what the impacts of the dogs were. That's without knowing anything about the kill data. We were promised that, and you're not fulfilling that promise. And yet, I would propose to you that even an analysis of the kill data will be of no scientific value. It's only 14 bears. The data that you will get is skewed because hunters select for large male bears. And so any of this data will be skewed and unscientific. What's really needed is a proper population study, as they're doing in California with hair samples, tooth samples, culvert traps, and you don't have to kill bears to do any of this. There's no need to kill bears to gather any data whatsoever on these bears, and even if you did, there's plenty of bears killed with car accidents for you to choose from. As to the proposal to close off some portion of the Tahoe Basin, No Bear Hunt Nevada appreciates this as an important first step in putting a permanent end to this bear hunt. It's very interesting to hear Mr. Yannick talk about public safety, because I distinctly remember him last December saying that there was absolutely no threat to public safety with this bear hunt. So we're glad to hear that some of the things that No Bear Hunt Nevada has put forth is finally being heard. However, I would say that if bear hunting is not safe in Lake Tahoe, there are a whole heck of a lot of other areas in the state with hiking and camping where bear hunting would also be unsafe. If you do close off the Tahoe Basin, that's a big problem. All of your bear data is for Lake Tahoe bears. You have no data on bears outside the basin. And to accept anecdotal evidence by interested bear hunters that there are a whole ton of bears. I remember Mr. Lackey's scientific explanation that there were a ton of bears out there. These hunters are interested. This is anecdotal evidence. It's, once again, no science behind it. And if there were so many bears outside of the Tahoe Basin, then why didn't you make your quota? With your 4-month season and your packs of dogs, why didn't you make your bear quota if there's so many bears? So if you're closing off the basin, there's a lot of other places that need to be closed off. We've been told by NDOW, we appreciate their candor, that there has been no cost-benefit study performed for this bear hunt. We have no idea how much this bear hunt cost, yet we do know that you took in $23,000 of fees. We have a member in our organization who's an engineer who works with biologists, with companies of about 500 employees. His best guess, and that's all we can offer, at the very conservative guess, is that this hunt cost $200,000 to put on. And that's based on employee time and that type of thing. So if the bear hunt took in $23,000, it cost $200,000 to put on. That's no way to run a state agency, especially in these economic times with these budgets. And it also means that that money is coming from other wildlife and hunting programs. So we would think that you should at least get a cost-benefit analysis on this hunt before you proceed with another one. Carl Lackey was quoted in the newspaper recently as stating that the bear hunt was very successful. My question to you would be, very successful at doing what? To this day, you have not given us a need for the hunt. The judge in our lawsuit, though he failed to remand the case as we had requested, did find that you did not ever state a need for this bear hunt, and to this day you have not stated a need for this bear hunt.
15 seconds.
There's no management objective to this hunt. You have no bear management plan. So how in the heck can you even judge what this hunt accomplished? And 14 bears, what management objective does that achieve anyway?
That's 6 minutes. Can you wrap up?
Also, hunting dogs are unethical. I wanted to know how long these dogs chased these bears, how many hours, how many days. Just an example of the information that you don't have before you. Thank you.
Paul Dixon.
For the record, Paul Dixon, Clark County Cab. As was pointed out by Karen Lane, we had significant discussion at my cab on this, and although I listened to Larry Johnson and Gil Yannick, and I agree with them, cabs are supposed to give you their public input from the public. And to be honest with you, at my meeting, the majority of the people in my audience were people who were against trapping and bear hunting and did a lot of commenting. And so the recommendation that Clark came up with was to go with the department recommendations. And I think a lot of board members that I try to, at least on my cab, talk to is that we have to start respecting what the majority of the people that attend our meetings or majority of the correspondence we get, not just our personal feelings. And so when I have a majority of the people in my audience that request a certain thing, then I think that's what we go with. So our recommendation was to go with department recommendations. And, you know, we had a lot of discussion back and forth from cab members. We had anecdotal stuff from cab members who had people that attended or assisted on bear hunts and where they did things. I think it's always a tragedy, like Mr. Smith said, when somebody gets up and goes out hiking, and there are accidents that occur all over the United States related to hunting because accidents happen. And, you know, one instance in the state of California where you have how many hunters is a tragedy, and it's a horrible thing, but I don't think that you can say that you have a public safety issue because of that when you look at numbers. I mean, more people are injured in cars driving around the Tahoe Basin and fatally than hunters have ever done with people. So we don't ban cars and driving of cars in Tahoe Basin. So I would say that you have to put things in perspective, but you also have, cabs really have to start respecting the audiences they have. And it's a tough thing for Clark because in the past, we've had very little attendance of anybody other than the hunting community. And I think with Karen Lane and the start of things, we've started to have, with Karen back there, we started to have a much larger presence at my meetings of people who are non-consumptive users. And it makes for interesting meetings and difficult meetings sometimes as we try to come to compromise on things. So thank you.
Thanks.
That concludes the cards I have specifically on that agenda item, unless I have a bunch of cards that are marked off. So I don't call those every time. So.
Okay, so are there any other members of the public that have, Rex, come on up.
For the record, Rex Flowers. First comments are going to be from the Washoe County Cab. They voted to accept the department's season dates. That's the only thing that they took a vote on, and that was unanimous to accept those season dates. Now, Rex Flowers is the public. I would request that you would keep the areas open, not close the basin. If you give them the basin this year, you're going to give them Mount Rose next year, you're going to give them Galena. We're going to end up out someplace east of 395 in the middle of a desert. We're going to give up deer hunting in the basin. We're going to give up grouse hunting. There's hunting going on in that basin right now. and it's on both the Nevada and the California side, and there's been no public safety problem there. We talk about public safety. We should be more concerned about the public safety and the automobile and bear encounters. There's a greater chance of somebody getting hurt in an accident by running over a bear or running into a bear. I think we keep moving the baseline. We have rules and regulations in place. This is only the first year. You start amending all your regulations immediately, you're never going to get a baseline so that you can have studies in place. So I would suggest, our county suggests that you move the season to 1 month as the department requested. I personally would suggest you move nothing. Thank you.
Ken, come on up.
Thank you. For the record, Ken Wellington, Elko County. In my rush of getting my recommendations out, our board did support this. However, we did have a comment, and looking at the regulation under the specific regulations down at the bullet that says at least one mandatory black bear indoctrination class, we felt that one was not enough, that we should offer more than one, whether it be 2 or 3. And then after hearing the discussions with Commission Regulation, the 402, we might want to try to keep that consistent with the wording that we did for the sheep class and look at the same type of format. And that's it. Thank you.
Jason?
For the record, Jason Peterson. I wasn't going to comment on this because I'm not a bear hunter, but after listening to a lot of the testimony when it comes to the safety and dogs, each individual I heard get up here and speak on the issue of safety and dogs is kind of contradicting themselves. The only thing I use my dogs for is duck hunting. That's kind of after the fact. But if you look at the aspect of using dogs, one with GPS collars, I know of individuals when I was stationed down in Florida that we use them if they have a dog that gets disoriented. It's a lot easier for them to locate that animal. The aspect of public safety in dogs, if you use dogs to hunt bear and those dogs tree that bear stays in that tree. That hunter gets within 20, 30 yards. Heck, I've seen pictures on the internet within 10 feet of that tree. You put a hunter with a 300 Remington Ultramag 10 feet from a tree, what's the likelihood that he's going to have an issue with shooting someone when that bear is right there in front of him? Those dogs enable him to get that close to minimize the risk of a miss and stuff like that. So that was just a contradiction I was hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, come on. Oh, you're next.
My name's Blaine Jackson. I'm a master guide in Nevada. I live in Idaho. I've raised and trained and hunted bears for 30 years with hounds. It's the only form of catch and release hunting there is. Okay? You don't have to take the bear. I realize you can't control where the bear goes, so therefore your hounds follow the bear. But these guys that have these hounds are the best friends those bears have. They don't want to kill all the bears. They wouldn't have it, those dogs are part of their life. I wasn't going to comment until I heard some of the other comments. If you don't, if you take the hounds out of the equation pretty quick, then we're going to take the bird dogs out of the chucker hunting, and we're going to take the waterfowl retrievers out of the waterfowl hunting. Teddy Roosevelt had hounds. George Washington had hounds. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Krim, Persian Cab. First, I'm going to apologize for not sending out a cab report. I'm a bad secretary. I did send out the minutes, and I don't blame you if you didn't read them. There's a lot to read. At our cab meeting, we had the bear item on the agenda, and my cab voted to support the department's recommendations and move forward with the bear hunt as proposed.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public? Oh, come on up.
Will Gardner, representing Nevada Outfitter and Guides Association. We are in favor of this hunt. I hear the dogs getting beat up quite a bit by some of the public. For me as a houndsman, it's no different for me to go run my dogs on a bear than what it is for somebody to go to the park and play with their dog. They throw a ball to their dog. He loves to chase it. My dogs love to chase game. They see it as a game, as a fun activity. They enjoy it. I enjoy it. It's not about the bear for me. It's about watching my dogs work. And the collars, if a dog gets disoriented, I can find him. I know where he's at. I know where he's been. I think it's a great way for everybody to enjoy the ability to hunt bear. Thank you.
Okay, any other,
I got a card.
oh, you got a card. Okay, we got a card.
Gina?
Gina Greisen, Nevada Voters for Animals, Chairman Macbeth, and members of the Wildlife Commission. I still don't believe that we ever truly address the scientific issues. I have so many concerns about a lot of things that we're doing that I don't feel like, that the full due diligence has been met in finding out, the scientific data and finding out all the information before decisions are being made, not just on this issue, but many issues. And here we are again, and there's still, huge opposition. The majority of Nevadans don't want this bear hunt. And I believe that you guys have seen, and the fact that
Gina,
the first
hold
bear...
on a second. Let me, I don't know, were you here in the beginning when I gave out the ground rules for public comment and everything?
No.
Okay. What I explained to everybody is that the issues that we're dealing with on this agenda item and the scope of this agenda item are where the hunt is occurring, when we're going to hunt, that's the season dates, and how we're going to hunt. Okay? But we're not making any decisions today on if we're going to hunt. Okay?
Okay.
That is going to occur during season settings in May. And so if you could address the specific issues of the season lengths, and the hunt boundary issue, and how we hunt, which will include the use of dogs or not, then that's the scope of this agenda item.
Okay, but how can you make these decisions if you haven't looked at the studies and the data? Have you guys collected the data from the last hunt and actually looked at that, which is, I believe, what the commission promised that it would do when they initially passed the bear hunt? That's what I'm saying is I'm not sure that we're at a point where you should be deciding these issues if you haven't already looked at what has happened in the first hunt. And I don't think that we ever, when the first hunt was passed, ever really got a straight answer as to why the hunt was even put in place. So I don't know how you can look at these issues right now or decide these issues without looking at the bigger picture and looking at the science behind this hunt in the first place. And I'll go back to my, what I said in the record last year was that when I asked the bear biologist, Carl Lackey, some questions outside one of the meetings, and he looked at me and he said, sportsmen's pay my salary. I'm supposed to believe that the science that's been presented to you, that the science you're going to be looking at, probably even again, is unbiased? I don't believe that. I don't believe that for one moment. So, again, I'll just go on the record as saying that I'm vehemently opposed. Many people, the majority of Nevadans, are vehemently opposed to this bear hunt, and I don't think you should be establishing anything until you actually look at the data from this past hunt. Thank you.
Okay, and then in addition, we are going to be looking at we're going to get a full report on the bear hunt in March. Okay, any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Commissioners, anybody have a comment they'd like to make with regard to the proposed changes and some of the comment from the public with regard to these infrastructure type items on the hunt? Commissioner Ray?
Thank you. there was one thing here, which is I know we talked a little bit about before we got the hunt started, which was the information hotline. As opposed to having things posted online. Why are we still calling as opposed to, you can look up on INDOW's website and see if it's still open? It would affect the same purpose and say phone call, and lots of people like to use their computers to look up and, yep, it's closed. Was there an issue with that, or?
We were just trying to add duplicity, I guess, to that we would have a phone line you could call in, or you can get on the internet. If you didn't have internet, you could make a phone call. And we're wanting to make sure that, and we're keeping the phone line up to date. Sometimes the internet does, as you know, with our website, you have to have a person there all the time updating that. And Carl and law enforcement have been really on top of that phone connection.
It's difficult to keep the internet up to date, because that would be, if I was bear hunting, which I haven't had tag, probably not in the near future, but
we struggle with, and we have this conversation all the time, does everybody have a computer all the time? And the answer was, well, probably not. So we just wanted to make sure and safe, and that's why we did both.
Lots of people do. Okay, so the phone number's up to date, website might be old, so that's why we have this stated in regulation. Right. Okay. And maybe in the future, we could look into that, or if we could get the computer up to date, then we could do either or. Okay, that was my main issue, other than, I guess we're talking about comments, basically what we're looking at here is the Tahoe Basin west of the Tahoe Rim Trail. I'm trying to struggle with what is the benefit of closing that particular portion of the unit. I keep hearing that, that's not even the problem area, if there is such thing as a problem area. So if it is, well, why are we closing that? So I'm struggling with why we would close that as opposed to just leave it. Thank you.
Okay, any other comment or discussion from the commission?
Mr. Chairman? I guess I'm still confused on the wording, where it says 192 and 194, except those portions of the Tahoe Basin west of the Tahoe Rim Trail, which are closed to bear hunting. Does that sounds like it's already was closed this last year for the hunt. Is that true? Or is this something that's new?
That's the new proposal right there that you're reading.
And that area that they're proposing to close now, is it open to deer hunting?
Yes, deer hunting and grouse hunting.
But we're going to close it to bear hunting.
That's the proposal.
Yeah. I don't agree with that.
Commissioner McNinch.
Okay, I'll make the leap here so everybody knows where I'm at. At the September meeting, when we were talking about putting out making these regulations permanent, I made the statement, and I stand by it, that was an administrative issue and didn't have an issue with that. That's why I voted in support of that. It wasn't an endorsement of the hunt in its current form. I also made the statement that as we move forward, unless there was a process and the opportunity to vet a lot of these issues out that have been there, that's as far as I was going to go. And I made that pretty clear at that time. And I have encouraged the department, and I very much appreciate the fact that the conversations have occurred and that there are proposals on the table. But it's not something that I'll be supporting today. The irony to that is that by not supporting that, it's very possible, and I've talked to the folks that have concerns with this about the hunt, that the possibility and the likelihood is that the hunt will remain in its current form. There won't be any changes. That's a high probability. So I'm in a position to where my reason for voting could ultimately is sound. It's based on what I've made in statements in the past and what positions that I've taken. And based on my philosophy on how things should move forward, but could result in this hunt not changing, which is contrary to what people are asking for. I think that the people that I've talked to, you've heard the discussion, you've seen that potential for that is very high at this point in time. So I believe that I've always stated, those of you who have been around me and know me for a very long time know that I'm a multi-use person. My vote today to not support this is not an endorsement of the hunt in and of itself. However, I want everybody to understand that I am not against hunting. I'm not against bear hunting. I'm a multi-use person, but I do believe there are a lot of things on the table that need to be vetted, that need to be discussed, that need to be worked out to determine if there is even a need to have a bear hunt. And that's where I stand. I do have concerns that these changes don't go far enough, recognizing the potential public safety issues. I do recognize that. I think it's a lot more painful to go one step at a time as we go along. I do believe that has got potential to create some major frustrations. And this is difficult, a difficult spot, but I've tried to be honest with my constituents. That the season was an administrative issue for me, and as we move forward, so now here's the potential to, perhaps in their eyes, make progress, and they won't get my support in that sense. So I apologize to you for that, but I do stick by what I said in September, that until we had a process and we had an opportunity to sit down and get this bear group together and get things out on the table and talk, that I probably wasn't going to be very supportive of things beyond that. So that's where I stand.
Other commissioners' comments? Commissioner Drew?
Again, I'd just like to restate that I think the department's being very proactive in some adaptive management strategies moving forward or potentially moving forward with this hunt. This seems very reasonable to me, the proposal in front of us, and it seems to be supported by both sportsmen and non-sportsmen in my neck of the woods and a fair number of cabs. So at this time, I'm going to be in pretty staunch support of the proposal.
Okay.
Chair,
Commissioner Howell?
I got two more questions. If I could ask Larry, do you happen to know if there was any bears taken in this area that you proposed to close?
No, there were no bears taken in the Tahoe Basin.
Okay. The other question is, it's possible for a guy to have a deer tag in his pocket and a bear tag, hunting in the same area, right?
Certainly.
I think you ought to be able to use either tag.
Yeah, any other comments, Commissioner Trump? Pull your mic up. You talk awful soft. Hard for everybody to hear you.
Mr. Chairman, the way this is worded is deceptive because it gives the impression that this area presently is closed to bear hunting, which I understand is not true. Now, if it's open to deer hunting, I don't think it should be closed to bear hunting. I think we're setting a precedent here that is going to come back to haunt us. And we start giving units, as we mentioned before, if we start giving units away and giving areas away, there'll be no stopping things. If this thing is worded wrong, I don't think this should go forward like it is. Leave these areas open. Do not close those areas in 192 and 194.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Commissioner Robb?
I believe we have to start someplace, and what the department has recommended is a start. But I want to recognize that it's not the end. We are going to have a bear committee, or we do have a bear committee. That bear committee has a ton of work in front of it, and I believe many of the issues brought up today by many of the speakers will be addressed. Unit area boundaries, hounds. I think when the bear committee meets, those issues are going to be on the table, plus issues that help the bear in their natural habitat in protected areas. Bear-proof containers, multiple things are going to be discussed by that bear committee to help the bears. But with the timing of where we're at with regulation and stuff, we need to take a step, or we stop. And with that being said, I think this is a reasonable step, and recognizing it's a reasonable step, but it's not the end. I know there's a long ways to go before we get to the end.
Okay, any other commissioners, any other comments? Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking at the CAB recommendations, I'm kind of in line with going with the department's recommendations, and that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay. Well, I guess that leaves me. I guess, I've heard a lot of good discussion about, especially on the unit boundaries, and I'm sensitive. I'm definitely sensitive to the issue of sportsmen being able to hunt on public lands in general, so the argument that is made that we shouldn't be closing off national forest lands, to hunters is, I understand it and I feel strongly about it. However, this, the obvious counter to that is that this is been a very controversial issue, this hunt, and we do have an area that does receive a lot of other recreational use, and the potential for conflict is seems to be there, and therefore, and then the evidence that hunters themselves displayed, the actual hunters this year displayed in not hunting in those areas, kind of leads me to believe that there's, and that may be just anecdotal, but it just seems to me that they recognize the issue. And so I think on that aspect, even though it's there's very good arguments on each side, I'm leaning more towards, excluding the area than not. And then the season date issue for me is seems to be a very good thing to further eliminate any conflicts, with summertime, recreational users. So that one makes sense to me. And as to the issue of the use of dogs, I guess I just don't buy a lot of the arguments that I've heard to do away with the use of dogs. And probably one of the biggest and reasons that I feel that we need to continue to use the hounds is the issue of identification of the bears, the sex of the bears. I feel that if you have a houndsman like the gentleman that came up, or the two gentlemen that came up, that what you have there is, out of all of us, hunters in general and the public, you have individuals who have spent a lot of time around bears. They have seen more bears than we will probably ever see. They know how they act, and with their experience, they can probably determine the sex of the bear better than anybody. Other than maybe Carl, a biologist that has maybe a little bit more biology experience. But anyway, and I'm not just saying that. We've done, one of the reasons to have the use of dogs was this specific issue of sex identification. And I did get a copy of a science article or journal article on this issue, and it indicates that sex of the bear can be determined 67% of the time, and so obviously we have a better chance of determining that. If you convert this to a spot and stalk hunt where you're not using hounds, then at that point I don't think you can. I think that the chances of being able to determine the sex of the bear go down, and so because we have such a limited hunt, I just feel that, if we were in a situation where we had, the habitat where we have, like Idaho or something like that, where you could, basically have a spot and stock hunt and still manage the bears. I think maybe it makes more sense, or to at least consider not using dogs. But in the end, I think for our purposes, for our hunt and what we're dealing with right now, that we need to continue to use the hounds and minimize the impact on the sows. So that's kind of where I sit on all this. I think that, like Commissioner Wallace, hearing the majority of the cabs, supporting the recommendation of the department, I certainly understand and am sensitive, to the issue of, being able to get a full report on last year's hunt, and we are going to do that. But I think that, obviously the timing of it, the season ended in December 31st, and it's difficult, for the department to get all the information put together and then put together a presentation to the commission. And so, unfortunately, we weren't able to do it for this meeting, but I've promised that it will get in for next, our next meeting in March. And so if something, really, amazing comes out of that maybe we need to tweak something, maybe we can modify any of these regulations in our next regulation. I'm not sure if we can do that, but I think we could. If something needed to be tweaked, we can tweak it in May. So that's the way I look at it, and so I'll probably be voting to support the department's recommendation. Commissioner McNeil.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a unique request for you as my chairman. I'm going to ask that you give us a 5-minute break so that I can talk with my constituents. I want to get an idea where they're at. And I think you guys have enough information. You see kind of what we talked about before. I think you see how it might be lining up. I mean, we're all, counting votes. Just put it quite simply, where I perceive this thing's going to go, and if I'd like to have an opportunity to talk to it for a minute.
Okay, we'll take a short recess. Will 5 minutes? You said 5 minutes. Okay, so what we're going to do, I've got just a minute or two before 11 o'clock, so 11:05. 11:05, we're going to be back.